welcome. And today it's gonna be a little different. I don't have my MPC. I'm not gonna be making a beat. We're gonna do something a bit different. I wanna talk about MPCs. There's this question that I just get asked nonstop, and I've done a video on this before, but I feel like I will have a better say or better input now that I've tried or tested out all of the newer MPCs. Which one is the best MPC for someone just getting started? I have this email right here, and just to let you know, this email summarizes most of my questions that I'll get through comments, Instagram DMs, or emails. Pretty much saying, I'm new to the MPC and was wondering which one would you recommend as a beginner? Would the MPC 1 Plus or the MPC Live be a better option for someone just getting started? Look, this is a question that a lot of people have asked, and I've made videos on this before. I just had never tested out the MPC X, so that was something I could not speak on. But now I've tried out all of the newer MPCs, and also just want to give you an update with my MPC X. What's up with it? Do I still have it? Do I no longer have it? First of all, I want to give a shout out to Zounds. Zounds did let me borrow the MPC X. So no, it was not my MPC. They let me borrow it for about 3 months. I was able to use it. So shout out to them. And also, Zounds is awesome. I always shout out Zounds on my videos. They do not pay me to give them a shout out. However, they do pay me commission. So if you guys do purchase anything from Zounds, I do get a kickback from them. I could not recommend them enough. Most of the stuff that I have here in my studio, I've purchased through Zounds. So if you guys do shop from Zounds, I do get a kickback. Shout out to them. Before I jump into the video, quick update with the MPC X. I do not have it anymore. I sent it back, and I do want to speak on the X, but I'll get on that topic as I dive into this question right here. So as a beginner, which MPC would you recommend, right? That's the number one question for anybody looking into purchasing an MPC. Now comparing all of the newer MPCs, and hopefully after this video, this helps you out on making your decision. Look, let's just get this out the way. My favorite MPC that I've ever used, any of these newer ones, is the MPC Live Mark II. The MPC Live Mark II, I like it because I just like the way it looks. I like the bigger pads. I like the inputs and outputs that it gives me. And it also gives me the ability to install an internal SSD drive. The SSD drive that gives me the option to put within the MPC Live is just luxury. I could honestly get away with a little small SD card. There's no big deal for me, but it is pretty cool that I can insert it into the MPC Live. Everything on these MPCs, when it comes down to workflow, is identical. It's going to be the exact same workflow. So if you're a beginner and which one's going to be the best option for me to start with, I don't think that's the right question. I think it's just what is your budget, because if you pick up an MPC X, which is the most expensive MPC, versus an MPC 1, it's a huge price difference, but it does not make you more professional if you have an MPC X versus an MPC 1. Now, if money is not an issue and you can pick up anything you want, or if you just had all the MPCs right there and somebody said, look, pick one, I'll purchase it for you. Me, right out the bat, I would go with the MPC Live or the MPC X. The MPC X, when it comes down to chopping up samples, is going to be the most fluent, and just it's a faster workflow. Having those cue links right next to you while you're chopping up samples is a luxury to have, and it's so fun using those cue links while chopping up samples. So if that's the type of person you are, you're like, you know what, I'm sample-based producer, I want to be chopping up records left and right. Of course, the MPC X gives you that luxury, but it is a luxury. It's not a must-have. You can still chop up samples using the cue links on your MPC Live, but it's just a lot easier using those cue links on the X. Now, if you're somebody not like me, and let's just say, hey, you know what, I want to sample every now and then, but I play keys or I play an instrument, of course, I would say, hey, get something like the MPC Keys 37, because you have those keys right here. That's Like, you could start using those keys and sound amazing without having to plug any third-party keyboard to the back of your MPC, which you can do on your MPC One, but it's just more convenient having it already on board with something like the MPC keys. Now, with that out the way, my MPC X, I do not have it. I sent it back, although I really wanted to keep that X because it just marked off everything that me as a sample bass beat maker wants to have. It was on that MPC X. Now the price of the X, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not sure, but it's at, actually let me check it right now as we're filming. Oh wow. Okay, so I didn't even know this. Looks like the MPC X is no longer being sold. Neither is the MPC Live. The Live and the X, which are actually my two favorite MPCs, I don't see them. I think you could still buy it, obviously, but you'll probably have to buy it used. That's interesting. I didn't know that. I do know that the MPC X SE dropped in price. I think it was like at $1,800 or $1,900. Let me know if you guys know down in the comments, which is a much reasonable price versus 22 or 2,500. I think originally it was at 2,500, and just a few months ago they dropped it to 18 or 1,900. 2,500 to me is not something I would be willing to pay for with an MPC X. I don't have that kind of money, so that was out the window. When they dropped the price is when I had that MPC X. So 1,800 or 1,900, I was like, you know what, that's a lot more like it and maybe something I can do. But then again, I kind of really thought about it hard before making that purchase. And I said, you know, why do I really want this X? Is it because, you know, I just got it out of the box and it feels so new to me and I'm in love with it, right? It's a new toy for me. Why is it that I really want this X when I already have the MPC keys and the MPC Live? For me, obviously, it was the Q-Links. Yes, it gives you more inputs and outputs, but that's not something I'm using or tapping into every single day that I'm making a beat. What I am doing is using those Q-Links. So for me, if I made that investment, it was mainly gonna be because of the Q-Links and also because it is a bigger MPC and it just looks cool. So I was like, man, you know, $1,800, $1,900, almost $2,000 just for those Q-Links. And because it looks cool, I just cannot afford that. What I do want to do is I do want to buy an X, but I actually want to buy the MPC X, what is it, the first edition or the black one? I think it was the first MPC, the flagship one that they brought out a few years ago. That one is a lot cheaper. I think you could purchase a used one for about $1,000 plus. That is something I might do because it's hard to let go of the Q. Like even till today, I've already had it out of the studio for a while. I'm making beats on the MPC Live, and I do miss those Q-Links. I'm still thinking about them, so it is something I'm most likely going to do, just purchase an MPC X. I myself, I don't need the extra RAM, the MPC X SE versus the MPC X. The SE, sorry for all these long names, but the newer one does give you more RAM inside of that unit. Now the RAM is awesome. I did notice a big difference versus any of these MPCs hopping over to the MPC X SE. A lot faster when I'm loading up plug-in instruments. It's right away. Now, that's not a big deal for me because I don't really use plug-in instruments. Every now and then I'll load up a plug-in instrument, but it's not something I find myself tapping into. So it's not worth it for me. However, those Q-Links are very worth it. So I mainly just want those Q-Links and those extra inputs and outputs. So that's why $1,800 or $2,000 is not something that I find myself dropping for that MPC. Most likely, I'm just gonna look at a used market for an MPC X, the blacked out version. It just makes more sense to me. Once I have that MPC, if you ask me what is my favorite MPC out of all of these newer ones, hands down is going to be the MPC X. The MPC X works awesome. I chop up samples. It makes sampling easy. Not only does it make it easy, but it makes it fun. I actually want to use my MPC. I want to, like there was times where I didn't have any records to sample from. I would just kind of force myself to sample into the MPC just to use the Q-Links, and it's just very fun. And one thing I really want to push out there, again, if you're looking into purchasing an MPC, we are in a time where we have this luxury of, you know what, purchase any of the newer MPCs that you just feel inspired by. Do you feel inspired by picking up your MPC 1 and making beats? I don't like my MPC 1, the way it looks, the way it's just shaped. I'm not comfortable with it. It's not something that inspires me. Now, when I look at my MPC Live, this is like, all right, cool. I feel like more inspiration. I want to make beats. That's the same thing I would say with my MPC 2000 XL. I don't use a 2000 XL, but I do have it right here where I can see it because it does inspire me. There's something about it that makes me want to make music when I see it. So that's a big thing. What I'm trying to say is purchase any of the MPCs you can afford. Get the one that inspires you the most. You're going to have fun making beats with any of them. Now, the learning curve is going to be identical. You're going to have to learn it just the way you're going to learn the X. You're going to have to learn the MPC 1, whichever one you pick. You're going to have to go through the process of trying to figure out the MPC. That is the hardest part, just learning and understanding the basics of the MPC workflow. But I promise you, whenever you do get the basics of how the MPC language or workflow layout is, you're just going to be having fun, making beats left and right. I have a course. I always talk about my course on my videos, but listen, don't even click on my course. Go through YouTube first and watch all these free videos. I have a bunch of free content. There's so many other amazing content creators with MPC how-to videos. Digest and go through all of this free content first. I'm sure you're going to learn a lot from the MPC. Then after that, if you still don't know how to figure out the MPC, reach out, purchase my course. I'm sure you're going to feel a lot more confident and comfortable on how to use the MPC. Look, I hope this was helpful, and man, it feels weird to me making a video like this because I'm always making beats and I kind of just want to take a break and maybe sometimes just film a video like this where I could just sit down and talk without feeling the pressure of setting up camera A, camera B, camera this and that, and audio here. Like sometimes that's what stops me from making YouTube videos. I'm like, man, it's just a lot of pressure when I'm filming these videos. And honestly, right now, I was not going to film a video and I just turned on the camera, turned on my mic, and we're hanging out for a few minutes. So this is fun. Hopefully I get to kind of have some beat making videos and also some just sit down and hang out with you guys as we talk about MPCs or even just sample beat making in general. So guys, thank you so much. I really appreciate y'all. Y'all have a good one. I'll catch you on our next video. Peace.